wake up, reach for your phone, and before you've even gotten out of bed, your thumb is already scrolling. One video, then another, a joke, a voiceover, a random clip you didn't ask for but can't seem to stop watching. 10 minutes go by, maybe 20. You tell yourself you're just waking up. Then you check the time and it's gone. Now pause. Let's do something simple. Let's say you spend just 3 hours a day on your phone, not even doom scrolling, just existing, checking messages, watching clips, taking a break. That's 21 hours a week, nearly 90 hours a month, over 1,000 hours a year. That's more than 40 full days, gone, spent inside a screen. And most of it, you can't even remember. That quiet mental fog, that's not just a bad habit, that's something deeper. People are calling it brain rot now. And no, it's not a joke. It's the slow decay of your ability to think clearly, feel deeply, and stay focused, caused not by illness or injury, but by the constant flood of meaningless content you consume every single day. In 2024, Oxford University Press named brain rot the word of the year. They described it as the gradual breakdown of your intellectual and emotional depth, especially due to repetitive, trivial media. Not fiction, not opinion, a cultural diagnosis. And the scariest part, it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels normal. It feels like everyday life. You're not watching these videos because you care. You're watching because your brain's been trained to crave the next thing and the next thing after that. Fast, loud, shallow. Not because it enriches you, but because it keeps your mind from sitting still. Studies are showing actual neurological changes in people who consume this kind of content all day. We're talking real structural shifts in the parts of the brain that handle memory, focus, and emotion. This isn't entertainment, it's mental conditioning. But you didn't choose this. No one does. It starts small, just a clip to fill the silence. Then another. And before you know it, you feel uncomfortable without stimulation. You feel disconnected when things go quiet. You feel off. That's what this video is about. That uncomfortable fog. That slow, quiet erosion of your imagination and inner calm. Not just because of the absurd content we scroll past, but because we live in a system designed to keep us from looking up. You're not alone. In group chats, in classrooms, in waiting rooms, everyone's quoting the same nonsense, laughing at the same surreal phrases, scrolling through the same chaos. It feels shared, but deep down, something's slipping. So if you've ever felt like your brain is moving slower, if you can't sit still without checking a screen, if silence feels louder than ever, this isn't just a wake-up call. It's a mirror. Now that you've felt the fog, let's talk about what it actually is. Brain rot isn't a trend or a punchline. It's real. According to Oxford University Press, it refers to the supposed deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state, resulting from overconsumption of material, considered trivial or unchallenging. That might sound like academic jargon, but it's not. It's what happens when your brain is constantly fed with junk, clips, edits, sounds, chaos. Not enough to inform you, just enough to distract you. Think about the last time you watched a 10-second video loop on repeat. Maybe it was funny, maybe not. But did you really remember it? Or did your brain just want more of whatever it was? That's the danger. This kind of repetition hijacks your dopamine system. It rewards your brain, not for depth, but for novelty. A 2025 neuroimaging study found that heavy short-form content users showed physical changes in areas of the brain responsible for reward processing and emotion regulation, like the orbitofrontal cortex and cerebellum. That's not just rewiring, it's redirecting. Your brain begins to prefer the fast and shallow over the slow and meaningful, and you can feel it. It's when reading becomes a chore, when silence feels itchy, when laughter feels empty, when your eyes are moving but your mind is checked out. You're not engaging, you're consuming, and what you're consuming is feeding mental fatigue, not clarity. It's deeper than just distraction. Research from Tianjin Normal University and UCLA confirms that chronic use of short-form content leads to real, measurable deficits in attention span, memory recall, and emotional stability. Increased anxiety, higher risk of depression, decreased impulse control. This isn't about weakness, it's about conditioning. So, let me ask you, when was the last time you were fully absorbed in a book or felt present in a conversation without needing to glance at your screen, or got lost in a song, not because it was viral, but because it moved you? If those moments feel distant, it might not be your fault. It might be your mind crying out for space. Brain rot doesn't show up like a crash. It builds slowly, quietly, like water leaking behind a wall, until one day the damage isn't invisible anymore. And now that we understand what it is, it's time to face how it sneaks in, so silently you won't even notice it's happening. So how does it happen? How does brain rot sneak in without warning, without a crash or a red flag? It starts with attention, not with a bang, but with tiny, repeated interruptions. You check your phone during breakfast, scroll while walking, watch clips between episodes of a show you're already binging. You think you're multitasking, but really, you're fragmenting your mind. Each time, your brain gets a tiny hit of novelty, a quick fix, and over time, that repetition changes what your brain craves. Short-form content isn't just light entertainment. It's dopamine fuel. Every swipe, sound, pop of color, it's a hit. Platforms are built to flood your reward system. A joke, a trend, a meme, and again, until stillness feels unbearable, until silence becomes punishment. Here's where it gets real. Studies from the Chinese Academy of Sciences and UCLA show that the more time you spend in this loop, the more your brain changes. Specifically, your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles focus, emotional control, and learning, starts to shrink in activity. The very muscle of your mind starts to wither, not from neglect, but from overload. And you notice it. You sit down to write, and suddenly you're reaching for background noise. You try to watch a film, and you've already checked your phone 5 times before the first plot twist. You're not easily bored. You're overstimulated. But the system rewards you for staying overstimulated. The longer you scroll, the more content it feeds you. The more you consume, the more it learns what keeps you passive. It doesn't ask for your permission. It just keeps giving you what makes you numb. The worst part, you don't feel the damage. Not at first, because it feels like entertainment. It feels like just a break. But each swipe, each loop, each moment of background noise chips away at your ability to stay present with anything deeper. So ask yourself this: what is that constant distraction costing you? Because attention isn't just focus, it's the foundation of your imagination, your ideas, your peace, yourself. And when you hand it over, piece by piece, what's left to protect? That's where we are, numb, overloaded, and craving clarity. And it didn't just happen. This was built. Let's zoom out for a second, because this overload you're feeling, it isn't accidental. It's not just the byproduct of a hyper-connected world. It's by design. This part is about understanding why it benefits the system to keep you distracted, overstimulated, and mentally fogged. Why the world profits when your mind is too restless to think clearly. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The more distracted you are, the more profitable you become. Every moment your eyes are on a screen, you're generating data. Every swipe, every click, every pause is measured, recorded, and sold. Your attention isn't just being stolen, it's being monetized. Piece by piece, second by second. You're not just using platforms, you're fueling them. Tech companies aren't building neutral tools, they're building behavioral ecosystems. Systems engineered to hijack your brain's reward circuits, keep you engaged for as long as possible, and blur the line between choice and compulsion. Tristan Harris, a former design ethicist at Google, put it bluntly: if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. And he's right. Your distraction is their currency, your silence worth nothing. Think about the tools we now take for granted. Autoplay, push notifications, infinite scroll. None of them exist to make your life better. They exist to remove friction, to keep you from thinking too long, from pausing, from deciding. Why wait for meaning when you can chase motion? Why reflect when you can just refresh? But that convenience has a cost. You lose depth, stillness, presence. You start to forget what it feels like to sit with your own thoughts, to finish a book, to feel something slowly. The system doesn't want you focused because a focused mind asks questions. It reflects, it resists, it notices manipulation. But a numb mind, a distracted mind, that mind buys things, clicks links, consumes endlessly without resistance. And so if you've ever felt drained by a day that looked easy, if you've ever felt tired but didn't do much, that's not laziness. That's cognitive burnout. The exhaustion of a brain asked to process too much of nothing. And this goes beyond social media. It's how news is framed, how music is chopped and fed to you, how dating is reduced to swipes. Everything designed to be fast, shallow, and addictive, not because it's better that way, but because it's easier to sell. So here's the bigger question. What if reclaiming your attention, pausing, reflecting, being intentional wasn't just self-care? What if it was resistance? Because once you start to see how your mind is being manipulated, you can begin to take it back. But awareness alone isn't enough. Now we need to face what it's costing you, not in theory, but in the most human ways possible. So what does this really cost you? That's what we're confronting now, because this isn't just about wasted time or distraction. It's about what you no longer feel, think, or become when your mind is constantly under siege. Let's start with creativity, that spark, the one that used to show up unannounced, mid-shower, mid-walk, mid-thought. It fades, not because you've gotten dull, but because creativity needs space. It needs quiet. It needs slowness. When every empty moment is filled with noise, how can your imagination ever speak? A 2022 study from the University of Virginia found that even short digital breaks boosted creative problem solving. But the catch? Most people found it painfully hard to unplug for even an hour. That's how deep the dependency runs. You crave the very thing that's numbing you. Now think about your relationships. When your attention is split, so are your connections. You might be in the room, but not really there. Half listening while scrolling, nodding while texting, responding to people with the same speed you respond to content. Over time, this hollowness grows, and what used to feel close begins to feel distant. Then there's emotional resilience, one of the quietest casualties. You see, when your brain is used to constant stimulation, emotional discomfort starts to feel unbearable. Silence feels suffocating. Boredom feels like failure. But that discomfort, that space where you feel anxious, uncertain, still, that's where growth lives. That's where you find yourself. And if you never sit in that space, who are you becoming? Let's be honest. Have you ever felt emotionally flat? Like nothing hits? Like the highs are muted and the lows just linger? That's not a personality change. That's your emotional system being burned out. Too many dopamine spikes with no meaning behind them. Too much stimulation with no soul. The result? A numb mind stuck on autopilot, watching itself scroll by. But here's the cost no one warns you about: identity erosion. When you spend more time reacting to content than reflecting on yourself, your sense of self starts to dissolve. You start to lose the ability to answer the most human question of all. Who am I when no one's telling me what to think? If that question stings a little, good. That's your mind asking for you back. Because the real tragedy of brain rot isn't that it steals your time. It's that it quietly steals you. So now we ask, is it too late to come back from that? That question might be sitting heavy with you right now. After years of numbing noise, fractured focus, and empty scrolling, can you really come back from that? Yes, you can, but let's be honest. It won't happen by accident, and it won't happen overnight. This isn't about deleting every app or escaping to the mountains. It's about something much harder and much more powerful: rebuilding the muscles of your mind, slowly, intentionally, with grit. Because your brain isn't broken, it's rewired. And the same way you trained it to crave the next hit of stimulation, you can retrain it to crave clarity, stillness, and depth. That's the beauty of neuroplasticity. The brain reshapes itself based on what you repeat. That's how you got here, and that's also how you get out. But recovery isn't romantic, it's frustrating. At first, it feels like weakness. Sitting still feels like failure. Focusing on one thing feels impossible. You'll catch yourself reaching for your phone just to escape the silence. And that's exactly where the healing begins. Start small. Put your phone down for 15 minutes. Sit with your own thoughts, even if they're uncomfortable. Read one page without distraction. Write a sentence in silence. Take a walk with no audio, no podcast, no playlist. Just your breath and the world around you. Research from the University of Texas and King's College London shows that even short bursts of focused activity, things like reading deeply, walking quietly, or journaling without interruption, can reduce cortisol, improve memory, and reactivate the critical thinking regions of your brain. You don't need a life reset. You need rhythm, you need repetition, you need presence. And here's what happens when the noise starts to lift. The real you starts to show up again. You hear yourself think. You feel music again, not just hear it. You actually look someone in the eyes and stay there. No checking out, no autopilot. Just real connection, real reflection, real life. But here's the trap. Recovery will feel boring at first. Because boredom is now unfamiliar, it's uncomfortable, but boredom is not the enemy. Boredom is the birthplace of creativity, memory, and self-awareness. It's the moment your mind catches its breath and says, "Finally, I'm here." So ask yourself, are you willing to sit in that discomfort to feel fully alive again? Because the next part isn't about what you're cutting out, it's about what you're coming back to. This part isn't about detoxing, it's about rediscovery, who you are beneath the static, who you've always been before your attention was hijacked, before your thoughts were filtered through endless clips, comments, and trending sounds. Because here's the truth, the version of you before the rot still exists. It's not gone, just buried, under memes, under loops, under that quiet twitch in your brain that tells you to open your phone instead of being present. But once the chaos quiets, that old voice, your real voice, starts whispering back. This is where the real work begins, not in quitting apps, but in reconnecting with your ideas, your curiosity, your values, with the simple, ancient habit of paying attention to yourself. Give yourself just 10 minutes a day to do nothing. No playlist, no scrolling, no stimulation. Just sit, let your brain feel itchy, let the discomfort rise, and wait. Because something beautiful happens in that stillness. Your thoughts come back online. Your imagination, remember that, starts stretching again. Ideas emerge that don't sound like anyone else. Emotions surface that aren't tied to a trending sound or a filtered face. Ask yourself this. When was the last time you had a thought that didn't come from a scroll? When was the last time you felt something and thought, "This is mine"? That's how you know you're recovering. When your inner world feels louder than your feed, you'll notice your interests again, the hobbies you forgot you loved, the books that made you lose track of time, the conversations that don't need a screen to feel real. Food will taste richer, music will hit deeper, and Silence will stop feeling like a void. It'll start feeling like home. Psychologists call this cognitive restoration, the brain's way of returning to baseline once the overstimulation stops. It's like stepping out of a loud concert into the night air. At first, it's disorienting, and then it feels like peace. But here's the challenge. The world around you doesn't stop spinning. The noise will still call your name. The system will still whisper, "Just one more scroll." And every day you'll have to choose to protect the clarity you've earned. So let me ask you, honestly, if your mind is your most valuable asset, how much of it are you willing to keep handing over? Now that you know what brain rot is, how it starts, how it spreads, and what it quietly steals, the real question becomes, how do you live differently in a world that's designed to keep you numb? It starts with one decision. Not to delete every app, Not to disappear from the grid, but to be intentional. It means protecting your attention like you would your time, because that's exactly what it is. It's limited, it's valuable, and once it's gone, you don't get it back. Being intentional means leaving your phone in the other room while you eat, watching things that challenge you instead of just entertain you, giving yourself permission to be bored, because boredom is not emptiness. It's where ideas are born. It's where you return. Here's something to sit with. If someone followed you for a week and documented how you spent your attention, would you be proud of what they saw? Or would it look like a blur of loops, likes, and noise you barely remember? The truth is, clarity doesn't come from doing more. It comes from less, from silence, from space, from saying no to what doesn't feed you, and the world will keep trying to distract you, louder, faster, shinier. But you don't have to follow it, because this isn't just about focus. It's about freedom. The freedom to think for yourself, to feel things fully, to reconnect with your values, not just your feed. To stop living a life scripted by algorithms and start living one shaped by awareness. Viktor Frankl once said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." That space, that tiny moment of awareness, that's what brain rot tries to erase. But if you can reclaim it, if you can pause before the swipe, before the click, before the next mindless hit, that's the revolution. And if you've made it this far, this video isn't just content anymore. It's a mirror, a fork in the road. Not because I said anything magical, but because something in you recognized the truth, and that part of you is still alive. Your mind is still yours. Your clarity is still waiting. The path back starts now. The only question left is, will you take it?